Paul Liptz from Jerusalem. Good afternoon. I am with the World Union for Progressive Judaism on the Saltz staff, the educational director. Every now and again we do a webinar trying to catch up on events in Israel and the Jewish world, and this is certainly an interesting time as far as Israel is concerned, as one can certainly say with the United States as well. To just take a few components of what's going on in Israel today. For an extended period of time, the Israeli Supreme Court has been perceived as really the center of democracy, humanitarian concepts, and has over the years managed to battle some of the political perspectives, not only of the present government, but of earlier governments as well. And we must remember many years ago the late Yitzhak Rabin was in a very tense relationship with the Supreme Court over the question of expelling some restless activists, Palestinian activists, out of the Israeli-controlled areas. However, at the moment, the tensions have increased radically. With the right-wing Israeli government, many of the active more right-wing people, mainly from the Beit HaYehudi, Jewish Home Party, have really seen the Israeli Supreme Court as threatening the settlement movement. And we are at the moment perhaps in one of the most crucial components of this whole discussion, whereby the Supreme Court, which from 1949, essentially until a few months ago, has not really been threatened, although there have always been differences between certain sectors of the political elite and the court itself. It seems now that there are quite a few members of the Israeli cabinet who are seriously attempting to change the nature of the Supreme Court. And what is very interesting at the moment is that in terms of validating some of the activities of the settlement movement in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, they have really indicated that they're looking for certain components whereby they can weaken the Supreme Court. By the way, the Supreme Court in Israel has been a very neutral one, very different in structure from the American structure. And what we've really had here is a committee of a number of different groups, cabinet ministers, members of the Knesset, of the parliament, judges who are active judges, participating judges, and two members of the legal organization, the lawyers' organization here. This has been a very effective way of ensuring that the Supreme Court judges have really been the kind of people who one wants to be there. In the last few months, it's been clear that a number of the cabinet ministers are considering various mechanisms to weaken the court, either by increasing the number of non-legal people or certain aspects, certain sections of the legal profession who might be more in favor of the concepts and the ideas of this right-wing government. So the question of the Amona small settlement, it's a handful of little houses basically there, has been part of a lengthy decision by the Supreme Court made over 2 years ago that in fact these settlers should be removed from the land. They are there illegally, not with government consent. Now, over the years, the whole question of the settlement movement has been very, very murky. And there's, in a sense, been a division between those settlements which were set up with government support and those which were not really with government support. And then there's another situation of those that are on land that could possibly be Palestinian land, and those that are on land that are clearly part of the control of the government. So we have a situation here where the Supreme Court for an extended period of time has really been demanding to the Israeli government that they take action and remove settlers in areas where there is some sort of doubt of the legality of their presence over there. The Supreme Court has turned to the government on a number of occasions. This particular government has responded on a number of occasions and demanded an extension of time. Now, it's pretty clear that from a political point of view, the right-wing government is convinced that the longer one delays making a decision, the easier it will be to persuade either the Prime Minister or they would believe even the Supreme Court to change its policy. And actually, as the Deputy the Minister for the Foreign Affairs suggests on television the evening, this is a one-time incident. However, it's become very, very clear, a short time after her interview, that basically this is going to be part of the government policy. Now this, as I said, has a tremendous impact, not only in terms of Israel's standing in the international legal arena, but is certainly also pushing the Palestinians that much further. And they're beginning to feel more and more that if it was a good idea to wait until the government would actually remove the settlers, now I think their patience is running out. I have to add one comment about the Palestinians. They're also at the moment in an extremely difficult position. Not only is there a tense situation between the leadership, but in addition to which it is clear, because of the unrest and the chaos of the wider Middle East, it is highly unlikely that many Arab governments, if any, are really prepared to pick up the Palestinian issue as an important issue, because as we well know, there are a significant number of Arab countries which are facing such major challenges themselves that it's unlikely that they're going to pick up the Palestinian dilemma as having any importance. In addition, the change of government in the United States, which until now the Palestinians have felt that they could turn to the Obama administration in terms of expressing their claim, it's becoming highly unlikely that that is going to happen. Let us get on to the other issue, which is not only of major American interest, but extremely important for Israel as well. And that's this: the success of Donald Trump in the last American election. The polls showed that the majority of Israelis in fact favored Hillary Clinton, probably for a number of reasons, one of which is that the Clinton family is well known, particularly a good memory of Bill Clinton when he was in power, and his very genteel response to Rabin's assassination and his participation in the funeral. In addition to which, it's pretty clear that most Israelis feel that Hillary Clinton was an experienced politician, and better to have the kind of person who you know, even if you may not agree with all of her components, rather than a phenomenon which until a little while ago, maybe it's true until now, we know very little about. It seems to have been, on the other hand, that the majority of American citizens living in Israel, although we don't know how widespread this particular survey was in fact more in favor of Donald Trump and the Republicans. There are many explanations for this. One is the feeling that Obama was not pro-Israel, although there's a great deal of evidence to show that that is actually incorrect, particularly the high level of military assistance which has been given to Israel by the Democrats. But perhaps even more so, we find that as a high percentage of American immigrants in Israel, particularly in the last decade or so, are Orthodox or ultra-Orthodox Haredi, it seems very, very clear that that particular section of the American immigrant group favors the Republicans in the United States, and when they come to Israel, that kind of position remains essentially the same. Many Americans, I think vast numbers of Americans, are wondering who the real Donald Trump is. And in the few days since his election, one's heard a tremendous amount of contradictory kind of commentary. And as someone who follows CNN, Fox News, France 24, a German television station, Sky News and the BBC, having observed the commentary on that very wide range, as well as the three Israeli national programs, it is clear that there is a high level of confusion. Israelis also do not know exactly what is going to happen. They are looking very closely at the nature of the cabinet and his central survivors, and certainly fears are already rising that right-wing racialists in the United States who are initially talking particularly against the Muslim population and the immigrants from Mexico who are illegal or semi-illegal, those kind of people at a certain time would turn on the Jewish population as well. It's really too early to know exactly what's going to happen. There are those who see Donald Trump as a Putin kind of leader, and those kind of leaders like other strong leaders, and in a certain sense, Bibi Netanyahu belongs to that kind of category. On the other hand, there's no doubt about it that the tremendous fear of many Israelis, particularly Israelis who have a good sense of the United States, and more so those Israelis who've moved away from the major cities of the United States and spent some time either in the Midwest or the southern part of the states, many of them are really asking themselves, is the slowly rising anti-Semitic sentiment, which we hear about, something which is going to affect Israel as well? As I said, Israel is deeply divided. There are those who say Trump is good for Israel. A strong autocratic leader always supports Israel and will certainly support the settlement movement. Israelis are well experienced of the impact of Sheldon Adelson and his tremendous financial support to one of the pro-Bibi Israeli Hebrew newspapers, and having seen him once again in the last election, not having given an initial $100 million to the Republican Party, but a supposed mere $25 million, there are those Israelis who actually believe that people like Sheldon Adelson are so important in the United States that they will direct the Republican Party to be much more pro-Israel than the Democrats before them. I am deeply skeptical of this particular approach, but no doubt many of you listening to me and seeing me are probably also asking, what is the direction? And having heard just in the last few hours the Anti-Defamation League comment and warning to Trump to be very careful of enabling anti-Semitic people into the cabinet, if that is what the well-informed ADL is saying, then how much more so should we in Israel be asking some of the tough questions and be looking at the future with some elements of fear. America is our most important ally, and although the relationship in the last decade or so has not been particularly comfortable, I think new issues may well be rising, which we in Israel have really not considered as being possible until now. Next year, between May the 17th and May the 20th, there will be our International Connection Seminar here in Jerusalem, where, with the vast range of topics which will be dealt with, many of which concern directly the various Reformed congregations around the world, certainly issues directly related to Israel and the challenges facing Israel will be brought up. Immediately prior to the connections is a pre-seminar between May the 13th and May the 17th, which is designed essentially for legal professionals, and that once again will be looking at some of the intricate legal issues which Israel faces, a country, by the way, which never has to deal with one legal realm, but in fact four: Ottoman law, Jewish religious law, British law, and Israeli law, which certainly makes any profession dealing with legal components absolutely fascinating. The last 2 days of that particular seminar, designed mainly for legal professionals, between May the 16th and May the 17th, will bring in many of the aspects that I mentioned a little while ago. Iraq, the Israel Religious Action Center, the reform arm of the World Union for Progressive Judaism in Israel, is going to be part of and the dominating section of the 2 last days of the legal professional seminar, and deal very, very carefully with some of the issues of the Western-Southern Wall dilemmas, the state-religion question in the big picture, and also try to explain that with all the challenges which we in the reform movement face, there have been some very, very impressive moves forward in terms of the various reform congregations around the country. The last comment is the WUPJ Leadership Seminar, designed for essentially lay leaders from our congregations around the world. We will hold it in Jerusalem and various other parts of the country between February the 16th and 26th next year, 2017. This has been a very, very successful seminar over the years, bringing together a very heterogeneous group of participants from various congregations, and the list which we have at the moment, and the number continues to grow, shows that we have people from a significant number of countries, from large congregations, small congregations, including people who are central in the movement and people who want to be central in the movement in the future. Join us at the Pre-Connections Legal Seminar, at Connections, and certainly before that, if you see yourself as an activist and a lay leader, either now or in the future, certainly we hope to see you in February 2017 at the WUPJ Seminar. Toda v'lehitraot.